When you're going to a fertility specialist, somebody that supposedly went to school for all of this stuff and studied more and more and more and more and more, and yet they're missing the boat in every single aspect of women hormones, men's hormones. I mean, it just blows my mind. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Jacque Show. I was sitting here and I was trying to think about what I wanted to talk about today. And I think something that's really important that we need to talk about, we need to address, is something that I see on a daily basis. And this topic is near and dear to my heart because, you know, from my story, from Megan's story, there's so many women out there right now who are struggling with infertility. And to me, it's unacceptable. The current medical model, I mean, any disease or any condition that gets worse and worse and worse and worse every single year, and the primary treatment is medical intervention, at some point, when are we going to learn? When we go to a medical doctor, we're going to take drugs, we're going to get surgery, we're going to have all these crazy diagnostics tests done, and they're going to look so deep into the minutia, which can be helpful for sure. But when we're talking about fertility and you're talking about minute numbers, what cause could have caused this particular small number to be off? And what's an example of this, right? So say we get a blood serum test in, or you get one in, and what we're seeing is that the progesterone levels is just dropped down. It's bottom of the barrel, the lowest of the low progesterone. You don't even have it. It's inverted. It's completely disappeared. Medical intervention has only two tools they could do. They can't do surgery in this instance because, you know, they're typically going to go give a drug first. But what are they going to do? They're going to give you progesterone. So they see a deficiency, they add to that deficiency without ever actually finding that underlying cause. And so say you're stressed out and you're taking progesterone. If you're constantly stressed, you're taking that progesterone. Progesterone's continuing to convert into cortisol. And if your doctor, your OB, your whatever, your fertility specialist hasn't talked about a cortisol steal or a pregnenolone steal, and they're talking about your fertility journey, that right there should be a red flag. You should say, you know what, doc, thanks for all that you've done. I appreciate you. I love you. You've done all you could up to here, but we're not going to see eye to eye on this. Anybody who embarks, just the thought nowadays of saying that, hey, we're going to get pregnant, we don't use that verbiage. We don't say, Megan and I are going to have a child right now. We don't say, we're about to get pregnant right now. It's not what we do. What do we say? We say, I'm trying. Megan and I are trying. So-and-so are trying. No, just for those of you, mom and dad, if you're listening to this, no, we're not trying to have another grandkid for you, so don't get your hopes up. But I'm just saying, verbiage-wise, we don't say, hey, we're about to have a kid. We are trained in society nowadays to be like, well, we're going to try. We're going to try to have a kid. You know, so-and-so, we're trying. And there was a guy, his name was Dr. John DeMartini. He talked about this. He says, to try is to lie, to do is to be true. As soon as you start implanting in your mind even the possibility that you're not going to be able to conceive, you enter that into the equation as an outcome. You make your journey harder just by saying that you're trying. Instead of saying we're trying, we say, hey, we're enjoying each other. Whatever happens, but it's going to be enjoyable along the way. And if it's not enjoyable, then we could talk about sex coach, relationship coach, or something like that you can use to make it enjoyable along the way. We've got one of them in our tool belt. Megan and I use one as well. They're fantastic. All right. So that aside, getting back into the nitty gritty here, if we're working on that fertility journey and they haven't mentioned anything about a cortisol steal, they haven't mentioned anything about stress relieving techniques, they haven't talked to you about your sleep schedule or your work schedule, or even just there are some people in relationships who so badly want to have children, but their spouse isn't on the same page as them. That's going to cause strife. That's going to cause complications. That's going to cause stress. So the first thing we want to talk about is you're stressed. Even if you don't even think that you're stressed, you're probably stressed whenever it comes to getting pregnant. Because either you have had a hard time with it, your sister, your brother, maybe your mom at this point may have had a hard time. Not really. I mean, if we talk about our parents, like it's more like, even when we were kids, it's like they put the fear of God in us. Like, you better be careful because you're going to knock somebody up. It was that easy back then. Now we have people in their 20s and their 30s and even in their 40s who are like, I don't know what to do. In theory, it used to be so easy and now it's not. What has happened? Our bodies are far more toxic. Our bodies are far more stressed now than they were 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, and so on. So we need to take that into consideration. So what we implement, like with what I get and the results that I get in our office, is they're outstanding. And I'm, in a way, I'm maybe arrogant about it, maybe I'm cocky about it, but I'm just being honest, because if you go and you're not talking about the fertility triad, which is what I basically trademark, the fertility triad, they're not talking about you're stressed, you're toxic, or you're infected, and they're just like, no, you're deficient. That's actually a good little quote there. They're like, oh, and it's none of those things, you're just deficient. Let's just give you this, and then we'll see what happens. Pay me premium for it. We'll increase more stress, because then every single failed attempt is more stress added to the plate. Because I mean, even to get the diagnosis of infertility, you have to fail at least 12 times. An entire year, sometimes a year and a half, you have to fail. And I'm not saying this to be insensitive. I'm saying this because this is ridiculous. They make you wait. Insurance makes you wait. And then they're like, oh, okay, now we can maybe do something. And they don't talk about stress. What? You spend an entire year, you've wanted to have a family, you outlined your life, you know what your kids' names are, and then you try for an entire year and nothing's happened? And now what? You show up at the doctor's office and say, well, there's nothing you can do, you just need to rely on us 100%. We'll take care of it from here. Yet their success rate is embarrassing for how much they charge. It's about 20 grand or so for IVF treatment. For those of you who don't know that, a lot of you probably listening to this, maybe you've heard about it, you've tried it, and it a lot of times it doesn't work. It doesn't, because they don't address these other areas. And so why do I get results where they fail? Well, it's really quite easy. I'm not here to treat your symptoms. I'm here to treat your cause. And so when you come to me and you're like, hey, we've struggled, we don't know what to do, I come to you with tests, and not your typical medical tests, your anti-malarian hormone and all those other, I don't care about that. Okay? Oh my gosh, you have one, you have the ability to have one. Let's make your body as healthy as humanly possible. Maybe we'll increase that, and maybe we'll give you the best freaking child out there. Okay? So let's start with this. So say you're trying to go into a fertility journey. Either you really want to have kids, or you're about to get married, or you are married, or even if you're not married and you're like, I would really like to have kids. What should you do? A huge disclaimer is that healthy people have healthy kids. Sick people have sick kids. So if your body cannot conceive, in theory, your body is sick. It is in a state of dis-ease, where it is no longer having the ability, or it's struggling to have the ability to be able to conceive. When you are in this state of dis-ease, okay, I'm not saying you're diseased, you're plagued. I'm saying when you're in that state, if you have a child, IUI, IVF, you name it. If you have a child in that state, your child will also be sick. IVF increases your child's risks of childhood cancer by seven times higher rate of childhood cancer. Reproductive, heart, you look it up. The research is there. So they charge you an arm and a leg. One treatment, I think it's like 37% chance of conceiving, and that's after like 4 attempts. So you have to pay like $75,000 or $70,000, $80,000, almost $100,000 to try to have a kid, and your body's sick. And say you do get pregnant, say you do conceive, and say you do have a child. Now you have to pay a lot of money to keep the child healthy because you had a sick child. Again, not to sound insensitive, I'm just sick of the system. This isn't something that I should have to do on a daily basis. I should not be having to pick up and take a look under the hood of you and your spouse and see what's actually going on. When you're going to a fertility specialist, somebody that supposedly went to school for all of this stuff and studied more and more and more and more and more, and yet they're missing the boat in every single aspect of women's hormones, men's hormones. I mean, it just blows my mind. It blows my mind. And so we put this timestamp on us too, whether it's our parents put a timestamp on us, or I just had a call with a patient where they basically said, if you want so-and-so to cover some of this fertility or for the birth and going through with your pregnancy, then you better do it before the age of 44. I'm like, good God. Like, there's so much fear. There's so much pressure. There's so much rushing around having a child. There's so much fear. But in reality, if you look at it from a bird's eye, third point of view perspective, having a child is one of the most amazing things in the world. It's one of the most miraculous things in the world. You create a baby. There's a human that grows inside of you. Not you men. Men, you can't have babies despite what Google freaking says, which is, God, it makes me want to smash my face off this desk. Men, you can't have children. We're talking about women here. Women, you have the ability to create life. There is nothing more powerful than that. Let's just take a minute and just applaud your body's ability to be able to do that. I am not envious of that, however. We've had 2 kids, and I am not envious of what Megan had to go through with the sleepless nights and pushing out a 10-pound and a 9-pound baby. Not jealous about that, but I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. She knows that too. So anyways, going back to this, right? So if you're sick and you want to have a child, you're going to have a sick kid. If you're sick and you take drugs to have a child, you're going to have a sick child. Research, this is all research. Look it up. It is true. Take a look under the hood of the treatments. And they're trying to force everybody to go IVF. They want people to go IVF. They want people to go cesarean. You're going to take the humanity and the divinity out of the pregnancy process and the birthing process and make it just a scheduled convenience and inconvenience. Can I get it scheduled on a Saturday because I have to work on Friday? It would be inconvenient if I missed a day of work. I probably won't get paid. I don't know if I have maternity leave or paternity leave. And God, it makes me nuts. It drives me nuts. So when you're starting to embark on the fertility journey, when you're going after it and you're having fun enjoying it, what should you do? Make sure your body is healthy. Even if you're still like, you know what, Doc Jacque, I don't care what you have to say. I'm still going to go IUI. I'm still going to go IVF. I'm still going to try any other treatment and work with you. That's fine. It's not my body. It's not my children. I'm just here to bring you the education and knowledge to say, hey, maybe you should look this stuff up. But you should still make sure that your body is as healthy as possible before you do it. If you're stressed all day, every day, if you're in an abusive relationship, whether it's with your spouse or a work relationship or with parents or relatives, and you carry that stress throughout that pregnancy, you're going to have a cortisol-driven baby. Right? Hoyt was like that for a while. He's still a fiery little beast, but we had a lot of stress that we went through when Hoyt was in the womb. For Sage, Sage, we had some stress towards the end, a good bit towards the end, and then we severed that. Megan severed it. She chose to. And Sage is one of the calmest babies in the world. It's almost it's unnerving sometimes. She's just so freaking calm. But it's just polar opposites with the babies, right? And so if you're going that route, if you want to have a child, be sure that you are as healthy as humanly possible. Make sure you do functionalized testing. Make sure you be proactive whenever it comes to your health, because the other thing is, say you go through, you have that baby, right? Everyone's biggest fear, I'll say probably biggest fear, is genes. I'm so afraid of passing bad genes off to my kid, or my parents had heart disease, or my great-grandparent, and this and that and the other thing. And it's just one after another, after another, after another. It's like, oh my gosh, that's just us. That's just the Mosers. We've always got blah, 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 blah. No, not true. What was passed to you were genes, yes, but was passed to you that made more of an impact on your health were the habits. Were your parents sedentary? Did they sit on their butts all the time? Did they drink a lot of alcohol? Were they chain smokers? Did they smoke? Did they drink a 6-pack a night? Did they go to the gym? Or were they like my parents? Went to the gym. We did the best we could with food, but I was always doing something active. So chicken McNuggets were a staple in my diet. Mom, I love you, but we ate a lot of chicken nuggets, and I'm fairly confident McDonald's came out with a 20-piece chicken McNugget because of me, because I would order so many of them after football practice, baseball practice, karate, whatever, track, any of those things. Anyways, we had that. But then every single night after I played sports, I went to the gym. I had a personal trainer. And then on the weekends, I don't know, I still to this date, and my sisters will probably laugh, and mom and dad, if you're listening to this, you'll probably laugh too, but I don't know how, even to date, my parents always still find ways to find chores to do on the weekend. And I'm not talking about, hey, just clean up the house. I'm talking about like, hey, today we're going to install a fence. Like, you bought Vila? Dad, come on. So anyways, side tangent aside, those habits are passed down to us. That work ethic is passed down to us. That diet is passed down to us, until something called the pain-pleasure principle takes place, where living that way can be so painful for a while, you want to move away from it, right? Like chicken nuggets, McDonald's, like, yes, in undergraduate school when I played football, I still ate that crap. I still remember stumbling home. Yes, I drank alcohol at Penn State, stumbling home, stopping at McDonald's before I'd go home and eat either McDonald's or an entire large cheese pizza. For those of you who know me now, I would never do that. Why? Because I would feel horrible and I would lose my health and take like 10 steps back, even though I've taken 1,000 steps forward, right? So at some point you get so uncomfortable with how that's impacting you, you either become a victim and say, well, that's just my genes. I'm just destined to be this way because this is just how my whole family was or is. Or you say, you know what? This doesn't work for me anymore. I feel like crap, feel like shit. Now I'm going to go over here. I'm going to try to start researching. I'm going to try to start eating healthier, maybe sleep a little bit, maybe drink a little bit less on the weekends and see how that works for me, right? Anyways, so when we're talking about passing stuff down to our kids, if we're healthy, if we learn what health truly is prior to becoming pregnant, that means you can break that ancestral thought process that gets passed down. It doesn't mean that your mom and dad aren't still going to say, well, high blood pressure and high cholesterol ran in our family. Doesn't matter. Your kids will know better to know that they're in control of their destiny. So when you're prepping, make sure you know what health is. So what is health? Let's take a second right there to talk about health. I've traveled around. I've spoken different states, different cities, and when I ask what is health, most people say, looking good or feeling good. Absence of symptoms, right? And that's what we've been trained on. That's what we have been ingrained with. You only go see your doctor if you're sick. You only take medications when you're sick. Well, unless your doctor tells you to, right? But we're stuck in this reactive model, and it's not healthcare, it's sick care. right? You don't go to the doctor to get more health. You go to the doctor to get more medication or get more surgery, or get more fear, which is then going to lead to more medications, more surgery. So when it comes to where we're going with this, got in my head there for a second, we have to know that these things, these generational curses, if you will, that get passed down to us aren't necessarily ours either. So when you raise your kids right and you have your kids and you give your kids the knowledge of what makes you healthy, and health, again, not just being the absence of sickness or disease, health is 100% function of all of your organs functioning 100% of the time. 100% function. Function is the key word. In order for you to have a symptom, your body has to drop from 100% function down to at least 60% function before a red flag or fire alarm goes off. So that means 40% disease, damage, and cell death of whatever that organ, cell, or tissue is has to happen before you get the symptom. That's when you become clinical. That's when you get your diagnosis. What we do, we work with a lot of that, but we like to be more proactive. We like to catch you at you're still optimal. How can we push you even higher? We like to catch you at you only have 5% disease, damage, and cell death, 2%, 1%. That's when things are easier. Catch it soon. Don't wait. So when we teach people what health truly is, make sure that you're not just like, well, I feel healthy. Well, it's a load of crap. You can have stage 4 cancer and not even feel it. Okay? It's just it's the nature of the beast. So when it comes to fertility, make sure that you and your husband, husbands tend to be a little bit stubborn, you and your husband live a healthy lifestyle. If one spouse is living healthy, the other spouse is living like my old college self, drinking and eating anything that exists, okay? Like Thor, read all these stories, to Thor would eat like 8 oxen and just drink a whole bunch of mead. Now, I don't think I've ever had mead as far as I know, maybe at a Renaissance festival, but that was me in college. I was the Thor of college, and I still like to think I have a couple of the attributes. I have some orange in my beard. I'll take it. Anyways, I digress yet again. So when we're talking about that fertility journey, we want to make sure that we have the proper mindset of what health truly is. Okay? When we embark on that and you have one spouse being healthy and you have one spouse being sick, this is a great divide in the relationship, because a lot of the times when we talk about the fertility journey, a lot of pressure is put on the woman. Okay? Now, in my clinical experience, when we have multiple miscarriages, a lot of the pressure is going to be on the woman. There's something going on internally that's not allowing her to keep full term. Is it stress? Is it toxins? Is it infections? Is her gut a wreck? What is it? Now, if the husband, if you're in a situation where like you just can't even get a positive test, females' hormones are great, but nothing's happening, then we want to take a look at both, right? What's the semen quality like? Do you have enough swimmers? Can they swim? What's going on there? So when it comes to it, even just like a simplistic standpoint, eat healthy together, because then when baby's born, you have to be on the same page again. You have to keep healthy food in the house. Otherwise, baby's going to be sick. You're feeding your kid dairy, good luck. Formula, good luck. That baby's going to be fussy. 100% of the time. You feed that kid dairy, it's going to be fussy. Bowel movements are going to be abnormal if you're using a cow's milk formula. Not smart. What's going to happen? Husband's going to start getting pissed off at the wife. What are you doing? I've seen it. What are you doing to the kid? Why can't you settle the kid down? What? You weren't healthy to begin with. So when you had the kid, you're still unhealthy. You're still implementing unhealthy strategies, which is making your kid unhealthy, which is making your kid act out. It's making your kid not sleep at night, have colic, not want to go in a car seat, scream all the time. And you're like, why the hell do we even have this kid to begin with? Right? Which brings me to the second point. Unhealthy people are typically freaking exhausted. Just flat out exhausted. If you are exhausted and you get pregnant, it's going to be hard. It's going to be a hard road for you. If you don't have energy for just the two of you, how are you going to have energy for the three of you? How are you going to have energy to be able to wake up at night? I still think it's a crazy gift that women have to be able to wake up at night and be able to tend to the kids. Me personally, I'm off with that. If I don't sleep through the night, I'm useless during the day, and I tend to get irritable. Now, I can wake up early in the morning if I get a good night's sleep and work with the kids in the morning, get them dressed, get them ready for school, get some breakfast in them, pack their lunch. I got that. Anything while I'm awake, I'm good with. But if wife is exhausted, if husband's exhausted, you're going to be 10 times more exhausted when baby comes, because whether you like it or not, babies need attention. They need you to wake up at night. They need you to feed them. They need you to change their diaper. You have a little blip and all of a sudden your baby's tear duct gets clogged. You automatically assume the baby's eye is going to fall out. This is all stuff that it's legit. Or baby starts breaking out and acting. You're like, oh God, nobody told me about this. And there's some normal stuff that takes place, but if you're not in a healthy spot, if you don't have the energy to take care of yourself, you're never going to have the energy to take care of the baby. It's also a huge risk for postpartum depression as well. Because again, if we're stressed all the time, hormones are going to be imbalanced. Your sleep's going to be off. You miss multiple nights of sleep in a row, you can actually have like a blood alcohol content type feeling in your body where you feel like you're just drunk and you're not really existing right now. These are all realistic things. So again, I can't stress this enough. Work on your health prior to conception. Whether you're dealing with what they label infertility or not, if you're just talking about having children, be healthy before you do it. So that way you can have healthy kids and we can have a huge, massive reversal of this health crisis that we have right now. We have smart-ass kids, not kids that are smart-asses, but super smart kids, wicked smart, conscious thought, super creative, not hypnotized by the crazy crap that's out there, not medicated, not getting antibiotics at birth because that destroys the kid's gut, not having to get tubes in their ears, having ear infections. Like our kids never had ear infections, no tubes in their ears. Yeah, they've gotten sick, but they need to be exposed to these germs so they have a strong immune system later in life. I digress yet again. So work on your health prior to conception, okay? Super key, super important. What else do I do that's unique and different? Why am I even talking about this? I'm a naturopathic health expert, doctor of chiropractic, mixed functional medicine, traditional Chinese medicine. The hell do I even know about this stuff? I'm obsessed with this stuff. I'm obsessed. Because I don't think there's anything cooler in this world to help people bring life into this world. Just had 2 people this week get pregnant in the office. It's awesome. Start the new year out. A third one wants to get pregnant. Actually, 2 other ones, they want to get pregnant. And they're like, are we good? Can I start this now? Not like, can I get pregnant? They're saying, would it be smart for me to get pregnant right now? They know what it takes. So what am I teaching my patients that's different than what medicine's teaching? Number 1, time. Time and patience. You're like, oh God, doc, you don't understand. I have a quarter of an egg left. My doctor said this and my insurance is going to do this. And I don't know. Calm down. Again, don't rush the process. Don't rush the miracle. When you are in the process of getting pregnant, we want to make sure, again, number 1, you're healthy. What are the 3 things? What's my fertility triad that I talk about? What the heck is it that I just keep talking about? I mentioned it. You're stressed, you're infected, or you're toxic. These are the 3 reasons why you're not getting pregnant. If your doctor hasn't addressed any of these, come on over. We'll get you fixed up. Time. It takes time to de-stress the body. It takes time to get rid of infections. It takes time, okay, to get rid of toxicity. Let's talk about the stress component first. Stress is huge. First infertility case that I worked with was a really good friend of mine. She was dealing with fertility issues for a while. She reached out to me when we got back up in Pittsburgh. She knew I did some of this stuff, so she was just curious. what we needed to do. So we did a Dutch complete test, which is, again, a test that I still don't understand why OBs don't run this freaking test. Well, I know insurance doesn't cover it, but I don't understand why they don't run this anyways. Ran a Dutch complete test on her, figured out what was going on. She was stressed out. She wasn't sleeping at night. And I was like, hey, let's put the program together. Let's go 2 months, or let's go 3 months. We'll detox you after 3 months. Then we'll see where we're at. 2 months came, and I get a text message. She apologized to me. She's like, I'm so sorry. And she had a pregnancy test in it. And I'm like, what are you sorry for? We hit the mark. We hit the goal. Like, what? She's like, well, I know you wanted to detox after 3 months, and I got pregnant at 2 months. Like, sorry. No, we did it. And so her kid is actually very similar in age to Hoyt. Actually, she has 2 kids now that are also similar in age to our kids. That was my first, like, putting my feet in the water whenever it came to that. And then obviously working with Megan too. So let's talk about that stress component. So from a physiological standpoint, this is where I'm probably going to be throwing my hands around. If you're watching this, it's about to get crazy with the hands. But when we're talking about the stress component, when we're talking about progesterone, we're talking about hormones, we're talking about any of that stuff, thyroid function, et cetera, because people are like, oh, I've got thyroid issues. I can't get pregnant. Well, look at any thyroid medication. Thyroid medication says if you have uncorrected adrenal insufficiency or adrenal problems and you go to take this medication, you're not supposed to. Fix the adrenals first, and then if the thyroid still is not functioning, then let's talk about the medication. Your doctor didn't tell you that. They just told you had a thyroid issue, you need to take some Synthroid. Okay? Or some nature thyroid or some other variation of a thyroid medication. But they never corrected your adrenals. When we're talking about the stress component of this, remember, just the topic of fertility stresses people out. Topic of infertility stresses people out even more. Having people in relation with us that went through fertility journeys stresses us out even more. We lose sleep at night. We don't think we have the finances to be able to afford these types of treatments because they're unbelievably expensive. And you're like, I don't know what to do. Stress is huge. First, take a breath. Breathe in, breathe out. Calm down. Slow down. Prioritize your life. Something that I tell my patients is if we're working with bringing a child into this life, into this world, you better start acting like you have a child right now. That means stop the drinking. Stop beating yourself up. Stop working 900 hours a week. Stop doing those things that are causing more and more stress to your body. Stop. Because you're not going to be able to keep that lifestyle going once you do have a child. That helps it calming down some of the stress. Get those adrenals tested. You can do a salivary, you can do a urinalysis, both of which are still far superior to the freaking cortisol, 1 point cortisol reading that you get through blood. Like, doc, why do they do it through blood? Insurance. Insurance covers it. That's why. It's useless. It's a useless tab. You get 1 mark of cortisol. We do anywhere from 4 to 6 to 7 points of cortisol. Salivary, we get the cortisol awakening response. We see how your HPA axis is functioning as soon as you wake up in the morning. And then we see what's happening during the day. If you're just boom, skyrocketed all day long, you're in a phase 1. You're flatlined and just barely making it, you're in phase 3. If you're somewhere in between, phase 2. All of which are still going to cause the same thing to happen to your progesterone. This is women. All right, we're talking women first. Progesterone is going to tank. It's going to drop. You're going to notice your cycle's off. I don't care how much progesterone they give you. They're just giving you more building blocks to build a house of stress. Do you want to live in a house of stress? Do you want to live in a mansion of stress? A huge, huge, huge house? Keep taking that progesterone without fixing the adrenals. Right? Is it starting to make sense how dumb this is? How dumb this mentality is? Stop it. Okay? Every time, and this is the other thing too, every time you put something synthetic in from the outside, you have what's called a negative feedback loop. And so if you take progesterone, you're now telling your body, stop producing progesterone. Stop it. I'm going to take it from somewhere else. Okay? I don't care if it's bioidentical, etc. You're still, in a way, telling your body, I don't need you to do what you were created to do. I'm going to do it myself. Okay? Now, there is a time and a place for bioidenticals. If you've had hormone, or if you've had reproductive organs and things like that removed, or if we need to just aggressively push you real quick and then just pull back and do like a chase tree to get you to regulate normally again, we can do that. There's a time and a place for that, but it has to be done properly. If you're taking a bioidentical and you're not finding the cause of why that hormone was low to begin with, why? Why? You're not getting to the root cause. You're not getting to the problem of it. And then post-pregnancy, when your progesterone drops and tanks and your estrogen stays up, and you gain 20, 30 pounds post-pregnancy, you're freaking exhausted, and you have postpartum depression, you're like, why did that happen? Your progesterone bottomed out because you were taking progesterone, and your body struggled to make it to begin with, and now you're still in that same instance. You're still stressed out. You're still leaving progesterone. You're still leaving your tank empty because you never trained your body on how to create more or how to save what you were creating. From the men's standpoint, same thing can happen. We're talking about progesterone, but we go to the other side of the coin here. Yes, men still have progesterone. Men and women, we have the same hormones, just different concentrations, okay? Now, progesterone, sure. Pregnenolone is the main thing, which is why we call it like pregnenolone steal or cortisol steal. It's the mother hormone. It gives birth to all other hormones. If you haven't heard that term, and again, you're on this fertility journey, get rid of your doctor for the love of God. Please do that. Pregnenolone gives birth to your progesterone, but it also gives birth over to your DHEA. DHEA is considered to be an androgen. It is a man hormone. It's considered to be androgenic, which means it builds, it's anabolic, it helps to rebuild the body. When we have that same stress response happening, right? This is why people on Wall Street love them some Viagra and other performance aids, right? Or high level performance people who can't get their testosterone up, which also leads to something else not being able to get up. And they're like, I need my HRT. I need my testosterone shots. Why? You're stressing yourself out. You're taking your DHEA. DHEA is a precursor to androsterone. Androsterone is a precursor to testosterone. If we're stressed all the time, we will lower our testosterone. Happens to women too. Women will lose their sex drives, but when it talks to fertility, when we're talking about fertility for men, low testosterone has been seen sometimes to be dealing with sterility. You throw testosterone treatment, some HRT into the mix, that does cause sterility. It does cause a decrease in sperm volume, motility, etc. All of your markers that you want high for pregnancy, not a good way to get on HRT. So again, find the underlying cause as to why your body's stressed out. Is it work? Is it your relationship? Is it because you're exercising too much? Is it because you're exercising too much? Is it because you're not sleeping? What is it? What stress are you carrying around? Make a list. Make a to-do list, a to-not stress list. What stresses you out? And see if there's ways that you can get rid of those stresses because it doesn't serve you. Is it a toxic relationship? It doesn't serve you. Get rid of it. It's not going to serve you now to get you started, and it's definitely not going to serve you while you're pregnant, because that's when people will come in and be like, oh my gosh, let me tell you about my birth story. My baby had 37 heads. There was blood everywhere, and I'm fairly confident it came out like the alien resurrection and maybe tremors and like just anything to scare the shit out of you is what you're going to get. I remember being at my buddy's daughter's birthday, and they were swapping horror stories. All right, that's what people think about now. Instead of like amazing birth stories, you're hearing like, oh, I got cut open, I had to take these drugs, I had this C-section, we almost didn't make it. Like that's the new verbiage, that's a new lingo whenever it comes to the birth process. And tell me that doesn't stress a mom out or even a husband out. We're like, I don't want that to happen. Megan gave birth in the kitchen eating popsicles, and then the second one, she gave birth laying on the couch. Like, yes, we're weird. We had home births. I'm just saying there is another way for you out there if you choose that, but you shouldn't have to have that fear. The reason that people have that fear, the reason that people have those experiences is because of what I'm talking about right here. They didn't get their stress corrected prior to getting pregnant. Step 1, fix the adrenals. You'll see the hormones start to balance back out. Step 2, you're infected. If your doctor has not run, I'm not even going to say a stool test. If your doctor hasn't run a GI map or like an actual like in-depth analysis of your stool, of yours and your husband's stool, or yours and your wife's stool, get another doctor. There is so much research out there right now, even from miscarriages, because your body's innate intelligence is smarter than any doctor, any specialist, any number one, anyone that you can think of. There's no way that we can fully comprehend what happens in our body. No way. If a man thinks we can, he's stupid. The only difference between a man and a medical doctor, only difference between God and a medical doctor is that God doesn't think he's a medical doctor. Let that stick with you for a second. All right? So, when it comes to the digestive tract, just basic stuff here. Leaky gut causes endometrial inflammation, which causes difficulty with conception. Leaky gut permeability. How many people have leaky gut permeability? I see so many stool tests come in, and I would say maybe 1% initial, maybe 1% of patients don't have leaky gut or gut permeability. 1%. What causes leaky gut? Let's talk about this. Diet, antibiotics, which I had somebody reach out and said that in somebody's fertility treatment, she was put on, I think, like 8 weeks of antibiotics. What the hell is that doctor doing? So that's going to cause leaky gut. Gluten is going to cause leaky gut. Eating your food sensitivities is going to cause leaky gut. Alcohol is going to cause leaky gut. Stress is going to cause leaky gut. These are just basic things. Just basic things. We haven't even talked about infections yet. We're just talking about what is it that I do when I wake up in the morning that caused me to be infertile. Really simple stuff here. You drink non-organic coffee from Starbucks or some of these other chains out there, because I hate Starbucks. You drink these things with pesticide and mycotoxins and mold toxins. You're drinking those in so you can have your first bowel movement of the day. If you're not pooping 2 to 4 times a day with normal, natural, well-formed stool, you're probably in a scenario where you have leaky gut. You're poisoning yourself. Tell me how you're going to get pregnant then if you have leaky gut. And tell me when your doctor was going to tell you that. Tell me when your doctor was going to test that. I'll wait. Let's take it another step further, right? You're going to go into a hospital. Most people go into hospitals for their checkups, for their OB appointments, so on and so forth. I want to check out this institution so I can see if I want to give birth here, right? That's what people do. It's what you do. That's one of the grossest locations you can go. You can pick up C. difficile, which is a horrible life-threatening bacterial infection. You can pick up MRSA, methyl-resistant Staph aureus, that'll eat your flesh in the hospitals. All things. C. diff would show up on a stool test, but MRSA, if you're looking, I've got like a hole in it looks like a gunshot wound. I had like 4 different MRSA infections at Penn State, that stupid gym that they had there. I always worked out with a sweatshirt, and then I went to a tank top and got MRSA like the next day. But anyways, so hospitals, you're going to get a high risk for infections. What about strep, right? Group B strep, another thing everyone's so flipping worried about, right? When we're talking about the gut health, we talk about leaky gut, then we talk about the infections. Now, let's talk about something that a lot of women suffer with, right? Men can suffer with it too, but the symptoms aren't as noticeable. They're not as technically severe, just because, men, we typically don't care about our personal hygiene. We don't care about it. Typically, I don't even know the last time I splashed water on my face and stuff, and the shampoo and stuff gets it too. I take more care of my beard than my face. But anyways, so we're talking about candida, all right? Candida or yeast. If you've had recurrent candida or yeast infections, there is a reason why. Is it your diet? Are you eating too many sugars? Are you taking, or have you taken too many antibiotics? Have you taken too many antifungals that didn't actually get rid of the infection? Or do you have mold exposure? Have you been exposed to mold now or in the past? Mold likes to contribute to candida growth. Now, from what, because people are like, oh, no, it doesn't. Pause. Candida can cause prostatitis in men, inflammation of the prostate, which can change sperm output. Okay, just talk about that. Candida for a woman, if we have external symptoms of candida overgrowth, we've got, vaginosis, where we have, whether it's inflammation or we have discharge, things like that coming from the vaginal cavity. It changes the pH. It changes the mucosal lining so that when a man does make a deposit to the bank, it has to go through a completely altered terrain. It's not capable of doing it. A lot of the times, it's not capable of doing it. I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying if we're hedging our bets here and we have candida and your wife has a history of candida overgrowth, or maybe you've got prostatitis, you know what the hell is going on there, could be coming, because candida is not technically considered an STD or STI, but you can pass it back and forth, men and women. Happens all the time. Okay? That's candida. Bacteria. Bacterial overgrowth is huge. All right, we'll talk about some basic ones, but there are some opportunistic infections, Citrobacter, Klebsiella, that you can find, again, on one of these stool tests like the GI map that can show that it alters the sperm quality. There is a lot of research on that. And again, how does that happen? Recurrent use of antibiotics, poor diet, high starchy diet. Basically, the standard American diet is going to contribute to that overgrowth. What else? The infection that I hate the most, but love the most to remove, Helicobacter pylori, or H. pylori. H. pylori is something that harbors itself in the stomach. If we have an H. pylori infection and it's not corrected, H. pylori, and you can Google this too, you just Google H. pylori, PubMed, H. pylori, NCBI, whatever, and people were like, oh, it's a normal bacteria. The hell it is. H. pylori is seen, if you want to have an enjoyable first trimester, you can't do it with H. pylori. You can get hyperemesis gravidum, where you're just constantly throwing up, constantly have morning sickness, and it's just awful. Okay? It can decrease your chances of getting pregnant because it's a stomach infection. It causes chronic fatigue, can damage your thyroid. Thyroid again. Can damage your gut. It allows for gut dysbiosis, improper balancing between the good and the bad bacteria. It can lead to undigested food being passed on into the digestive tract, which also pushes out into the bloodstream, which is where you get food sensitivities, which is then what your child's going to get. It's going, did I say chronic fatigue? It's going to make you so tired. It's going to be so hard to raise your kid. Now, past that, if you have H. pylori, your spouse probably has it too. If you and your spouse have H. pylori, that kiddo that you're just about to have is more than likely going to get H. pylori. I know from experience. H. pylori was something new that we started testing for because we wanted the best test out there. And I thought I had H. pylori prior. I'm like, I don't know. I ran a crap test. I won't run it again. Now I run this one. It's like, boom, H. pylori. What's up? We're in the house. I'm like, oh, man. Our son started having digestive issues, having real loose stool, had some skin issues, just like some bumps like on the back of his arms. He had like some rashing on his face. I'm like, what in the world is going on? We tested his stool. He had H. pylori. We tested my wife's stool. She had H. pylori. H. pylori spreads through saliva. Okay, so if you plan on kissing your spouse or you plan on kissing your kid, chances are they're also going to have H. pylori. So H. pylori, get rid of it. Don't do the stupid triple or quadruple therapy antibiotic crap because it doesn't work. They went from triple antibiotic therapy. They're like, I think we've got it. If we throw the kitchen sink at it, we could probably kill it. Then it didn't work. And they're like, well, what if we add a fourth one? Quadruple. Yeah? Still doesn't work. How do I know? I've had people who said that they've had H. pylori. They've done the antibiotics. They retested afterwards. And the doctor said, oh, well, it never really goes away. It just kind of hangs out for a while. So, like, you're okay. And then we test it and we're like, boom, H. pylori through the roof. And you can have some virulence factors because it can cause cancer too. Yay for that. So that's candida. That's bacteria. Parasites, same thing. Parasites just destroy the gut. In parasitic nature, even with H. pylori, you're not going to absorb all the nutrients that you take in. So you're going to be undernourished, you're going to be malnourished, and then your child too is also going to be that way, because when you go to produce breast milk, if you're not able to absorb all the nutrients you take in from whether it's a prenatal vitamin, postnatal vitamin, or just your overall diet, H. pylori has a tendency to crash down your iron, so you're going to bruise easily. Baby's not going to have proper iron either. You're going to have all kinds of complications just due to the fact that your gut wasn't fixed prior to getting pregnant. The other thing, and I was trying to find it before I popped on with this, the founder of the GAPS diet did a YouTube video. I couldn't find exactly where it was, but this stuck with me as well. When women are having recurrent miscarriages, again, not being insensitive to this at all, this lady said that there was a correlation between gut health and miscarriage, which makes sense. Because if your gut is so toxic, it's so inflamed, it's so infected, your body is smart. It says, no. I don't want to bring this kid into this world. We'll just cleanse out here and we'll start again. It can be very hard to hear that. But think about that. If this has happened to you, think like, I've had X amount of miscarriages. What's my gut health like? Is it bad? Do I have a history of antibiotic usage? Am I stressed? What's going on? This is the information that I'm giving you guys. I want you to really be able to think. I want this to be very simple, because when it comes to these fertility journeys, we lose so much hope. And that's when you come to me. And my main goal is to give it back. I need to give you hope back. And it can be stressful because healing takes time. It could take a year. It could take 2 years. I don't think it's taken more than 2 years, but it can take some time. Some people get pregnant like that. Some people, I tell them, I'm like, listen, I can't put a man-made time on a God-given event. My goal as a practitioner is to make y'all's body as healthy as humanly possible, so that when you are chosen to have that child, that it will be easy and you will be wonderful parents to that child. That's my goal. Okay? I don't actually do the conception process. I don't put sperm to the egg. That's not me. Okay? I'm not doing that stuff. But I'm getting your body healthy enough too. We talked about you're stressed. We talked about you're infected, all right? Candida, bacteria, parasites. Now let's talk about you're toxic. Okay? This is a hot topic, and not like the terrible store in the mall. This is a hot topic here, because when we talk about toxins, we talk about environmental toxins. We talk about our air. We talk about our water that we breathe. We talk about all of this stuff. Your toothpaste, the fluoride that you take in there, the makeups that you put on your body. All of these things are made out of synthetic, the Tupperware you use. All of these things are made out of synthetic chemicals, and a lot of these synthetic chemicals are highly toxic to the body, and some can even damage your estrogen, okay, and cause you to actually raise estrogen. A lot of makeup products do that, and I know that BPA has a tendency to do that too. It's an estrogen mimicker, so it actually increases and can cause your risk of cancer to increase as well. You can be toxic. So I'm not saying, hey, it's the new year, go out and run a detox. Don't freaking do that. If you know anything about me, I freaking hate detoxes. I hate cleanses. There's a time and a place for those things, but your body has to be prepped before you do it. Otherwise, you got detox symptoms. No, you did the wrong thing, and your body freaking hates you because your body's smarter than you. So listen to your body. All right, so let's talk about it. You're toxic. There are two categories of toxins in particular. Past the lifestyle, past the water side of things, and the makeups and the hair products and all the toxic stuff. And just a fun little plug here. I have no affiliation with this woman at all, but the organicbunny.com, she has like all of these women products, men's products to lotions, hair, everything you could think of that you're like, I don't know where to go to find non-toxic stuff. She has a website for it. Again, no affiliation at all, but that's where Megan just put an order in last night to get some stuff, get some lotion because it's dry in Arizona, and she needed some natural stuff, no fragrance and all that, and so that way I can lotion this body of mine. All right? So, past that, let's talk about heavy metals, and let's talk about mold toxicity. We'll start with heavy metals. Mold's going to take a little bit more time. Heavy metals, we get this through our air. We get this through our water, which is quite extensive. We get it through our food. We get it through so many different avenues. Now, I was listening to a podcast with Dr. Mark Hyman, and he was talking about some people that he works with, and he was basically like, anybody from Pittsburgh, you're going to have heavy metal toxicity. I'm like, shit, that's me. That's my family. My parents are still there. My grandma's still there. It's in the air, right? When you have all these plants and you've got, coal or steel, especially steel in Pittsburgh. I mean, come on, like the Steel City. Wonder how we got that name. So it's just in the air. If it's in the air, then it's going to be in our water, because if you know anything about the life cycle of water comes down from rain clouds, gets sucked back up into the clouds, and then boom, it rains again. Which is a whole other thing with global warming, which confuses the shit out of me. If it over rains and under rains, well, you have to have like that natural life cycle. So what's getting in the way of that happening? Man. Anyways, so you're going to have that type of process taking place. So if we're not filtering our water, we're not having good filters in our homes or in our cars, we're not keeping up with our air filtration systems, and we're constantly breathing heavy metals in from the outside, make sure that you get those extracted and get those detected. Okay, it has had a huge link with miscarriages, infertility, sperm quality decrease, low testosterone, no energy, high brain fog, no mental recall. There's a lot of stuff that comes from heavy metal toxicity, even nervous system damage. Okay, we need nerves to run our body. It's like our plugs. We need these things to be able to send messages to and from our body. It's from our brain. And then we talk about mold toxicity. This is where I skated over the heavy metals. How do you do that? You do a hair sample test. You can do a urinalysis test if you want to, but a hair sample is typically going to be the best. When it comes to mold toxicity, this is something that I fight so hard with. Whether it's you're just trying to regain your health, or you want to get pregnant, or you can't remember what the hell your name is, or you've got Alzheimer's or dementia, or you've got gallstones, kidney stones, recurring urinary tract infections, skin rashes, face rashes, head rashes, butt rashes, private rashes, jock itch, poor circulation, ringing in the ears, stuff purging out of your eyes. I had a kid that had black sponge mold coming out of his ears when he came to me. That's the stuff that I'm talking about. That nasty shit. If you are being exposed currently, you will not get pregnant. If you do get pregnant, watch the hell out, because high risk of miscarriage, and there's certain molds that can actually cause congenital malformation. So this means your baby isn't going to be formed properly. Okay? Whether that's the heart or some other portion of the body, you can have congenital anomalies, things that aren't supposed to be happening with the normal birth process. On top of the fact that you can have some really difficult birth story. You can have a difficult time pushing the baby out. You can have a difficult time carrying the baby. If you're being exposed, you're going to be toxic. You're going to have headaches. You're going to have morning sickness. It's just going to be a miserable time for you. Mycophenolic acid is a mold that comes from the penicillium family. And so if you get your typical bullshit air sample test, it'll say Aspergillus penicillium. That's what you've got. Not the test that we use. The test that we use has a whole host of different mold toxins, right? Mold families. Each mold gives off certain toxins. Okay, so you have different molds that come from, you have different mycotoxins that come from different molds. When people think about mold, the number one thing that I have to just smack people upside the head through the phone or via Zoom is no amount of mold is a safe amount of mold. You need to get that shit out of the house and be tested to make sure that it's not going to be hurting you. And I fought tooth and nail against mold remediation companies, mold specialists, mold doctors, mold everything. And if you're not doing it right, you're never going to get healthy, right? A lot of my infertility patients, mold toxicity. So people are like, well, every house has mold in it, right? Every house has mold in it. So it's not that big of a deal. Not everybody's dying from mold, right? Mold can cause you to have symptoms instantaneously or can develop cancer in your body. Do you want to have cancer? Do you want to just ignore it and say, well, I just had a little bit of mold and now I have cancer and I don't know where cancer came from? Well, it's the freaking mold that I told you about years ago. This isn't a real life example. I'm just telling you, like, this is just what some people think, what some people feel in this instance. Mold, I think the percentage now, I think 50% or over 50% of buildings in America are water damaged. Over 50%. And those are ones that are reported as water damage. Most people don't know what the hell is going on in their house. When you have over 50% of the buildings that you have, offices, your Walmarts, your big box centers, your warehouses, etc., it's not uncommon for people to come across mold. And it's not uncommon for two people to walk into the same environment and have two completely different experiences. I had one patient I worked with probably 4 years ago now. Mold toxicity. She had black mold, like actual black mold in her home. And her husband didn't believe her. That's why I call mold the number one home wrecker. Didn't think it was serious. She would have like an automatic reset when she'd go into a store. She'd like reset for 45 seconds and then start walking. Go figure, she had infertility issues. She was going to continue to have infertility issues until she got out of that environment or got that place cleaned up. I've had people who are like, well, it's just a little bit of mold. I clean it up myself. I bleach it and then I clean it and it's good. But does it then come back? Yeah. So you didn't fix the cause. You just treated the symptom. Good job. But it's going to come back again. Always have to find the cause. And when you're breathing in mold travels in dust particles. Most mold is behind walls. Okay? Which means it doesn't push through this stuff. If it does, God help you, that's a lot of freaking mold. But it usually goes unnoticed. Right? Or if it does, you're like, man, I got some dust on the walls. That's weird. I got some dust. Strange. I'll just dust the walls off and things will be good. Is it mold coming through the wall? Is the wall wet? Did you flood it? Is there a pipe that burst? Is there a roof leak? Did you flood the bathtub? Did you flood the sink? Right? Mold toxicity is probably by far the most common reason why people will come to me with a decreased chance of fertility, or they've been everywhere with fertility. I've had a woman in, I won't just specifics. She had multiple surgeries, roto-rooter surgeries, what I call them, DNCs, to clean everything out, clean the pipes in her body. But yet she was still going into the environment that was making her sick. So years and years and years and years and years of this. Now she moved out of that location. Thank goodness she's in a much better location. I'm so happy for them. But as long as you're being exposed to toxins, you will not get pregnant. And if nobody can figure out what the hell is wrong with you or why you don't respond to normal medical treatment, it's probably going to be mold. And until you get it out, you'll never be healthy. On top of that, when you breastfeed with mold, you pass mycotoxins through the breast milk. Baby then becomes moldy. Baby then has symptoms of mold toxicity. Rashes, significant rashes, can take place. Like I said, the child that came to me with mold coming out of the ears. All right? These are all things that you deal with when it comes to mold. People are like, oh, mold? That's crazy. No way. Yeah, yes way. Happens all the time. So when we're talking about the fertility triad, stress, super important. So you're stressed, you're infected, you're toxic. That stress component, to me, that's like a symptom. I'm stressed. But why? Is it physical? Are you being abused? Are you being abused at work? I laugh, but like seriously, are you being abused at work? Are you being abused from chemical toxicity, mycotoxin toxicity? Are you being emotionally abused? Again, relationship, work. Are you being spiritually abused? Where there could be other things like with the church, etc. There are so many different things that pour into that stress category that we need to take a look at all three of them. That is what is going to give you the highest chance of success. Be it to have a natural birth. I said it. Natural birth means easy pregnancy, easy delivery, not having to go cesarean. The best ways to do that is to make sure that you hit that fertility triad. Best way to get success if you're like, well, I still want to go IUI, IVF, still address those three, the fertility triad. So if your doctor has not talked to you about any of the topics that I talked about today, get a new doctor. Call us. There's links in the show notes. Get a hold of us. You have legitimately nothing to lose. You will always gain health by working with me. I will not give you medications. I won't do it. I will help you to get your body back on track. And your body is what ultimately gets the credit for the pregnancy, the credit for the birth. And then the other thing, I talked about this the other day with my patient who got pregnant. And again, I think it took 2 years or so. It's always the question, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? They clean up their house and mold, and all of a sudden, boop, there you go. Anyways, I digress. I need to stop digressing. I just go crazy with this. I love this stuff. If you haven't had the three prongs of the fertility triad analyzed into this situation, your struggle is going to be so hard. But when you actually invest into your health, you invest into reducing stress, fixing your adrenals, fixing your hormones. You invest into fixing your gut, making sure there's no infections, making sure you have 2 to 4 bowel movements a day. You invest into getting the toxicity out of your life. The financial investment is one thing, but the actual physical input that you put into taking the supplements, eating a certain way, changing your lifestyle, becoming your own person and your own couple, then when you have that child, it is so much more amazing. And I'm not saying I'm surprised you got results. I'm saying that you put in all the blood, sweat, and tears. You went through your own health journey. And so the fruit is always so much sweeter when you're invested into it. Versus if you're like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I'm going to go get this IVF treatment. I'm just going to shoot myself or shoot my wife up with drugs, and we're going to give it a shot, and my wife's going to be miserable the entire time. We're going to be bruised half the time. We're not going to sleep. We're only having sex every 2 days, only during this time. And now the whole sex schedule has just become another work schedule, and I don't know what day of the week it is because I just want to have sex, and my wife doesn't want to have sex because I don't want to waste my semen on a night that she can't get pregnant because that wouldn't be fun. That wouldn't be smart. So when you invest in yourself, it's the best investment that you can ever make because you will always be healthier. You will always learn things in the moment that you're working with me, but also the generational splash. I throw a boulder into the pond when I work with you. I disrupt typically everything that you know about life. And I uncover a lot of rocks. And the more rocks I uncover, I throw them in. Uncover, throw them in. Uncover, throw them into that pond. And so you're the initial splash. And then it starts to go out from there. Your friends start noticing something. Your family starts noticing something shifting in you. Your skin looks better. You have a light about you. You start feeling better. You're coming to social gatherings with maybe meal prep foods, or you're saying, I'm not going to eat gluten because that crap is terrible for you. You're like, what's gotten over her? What new fad is this? It's a health fad. And it's not a fad. It's just what health is. So it starts with the initial people around you. Then you bring children into this world. The ripples continue to go out. Your kids learn what health is, what to do if you're feeling sick, how to handle that, what that means. Again, what true health really is. From there, your kids will then be far and above healthier than what we are today because you passed down the principles that you had to learn the hard way. And then from there, those kids, your kids will have friends, which will then splash out. Then your kids will grow up, go to college, more friends, splash out. Then they'll have your grandkids. There, boom, teach the principles again, more splashes, more ripples. So when you invest into yourself, it helps so many people. And there might be people who think you're freaking nuts, and that's just because most people are insecure and they don't want to change their life because they're happy being miserable. But it's the best investment you can make. If you haven't had those tests run and you need help, you need support, and you don't know where to turn, or maybe you're in a position where you know this is what you need, but your spouse isn't supportive because they don't want to do the work, this is what you need. I've talked with many spouses. I've talked with many couples, and I love doing this together. This is why I'm going to be launching an infertility webinar about the fertility triad to teach this to people so that they can put this and implement this into their lives. I'm here for you guys. I've been through this personally. I have succeeded twice. I could again if we wanted to. We don't. We're good with 2. We've got what they call the royal family. We got a boy and a girl. We're good. But I'm happy to help other people bring life into this world. I'm happy to receive more Christmas cards of families that we helped to build and families that we have helped to teach what health truly is. So I don't think I have anything else to say other than that, but I'm just letting you know, if you need that help, you need that support, you know where to find me. Reach out. Get a hold of me, whether it's on Instagram. Again, the link's going to be in the show notes here to doc_Jacque or docjacque.com, or just call us 412-828-6000. Get on the schedule. We'll sit down and we'll dive deeper than any doctor in your life ever has. And we'll find that underlying cause. We'll bring hope back into the picture and allow you to be able to conceive naturally. If that's what you want. If not, then just, forget I said any of this. But I know it'll come back up again. The information needs to get out there. The information is truth. The research is there. Dig into that research, okay? Because digging into that research will bring hope back into your life. With that being said, thank you for listening today. And share this, like this, comment. Give me a review. 5-star, hopefully. Do a written review too if you can. Push this podcast out there. Share this with as many people as you can because it needs to be heard. It's going to be heard. So, anyways, love y'all. Thank you for tuning in today. We'll talk soon.